David says Celtic have been so poor this season, yet a win at Pittodrie and they're joint top of the league doesn't say a lot for the other teams. So there you go.
That's a bit of a buzzkill, isn't
it? Daniel, that Celtic are the one team who haven't had a decent run of form this season, really.
Aye.
They kind of feel like Celtic haven't had a period of the season where they've really clicked. Now, you can look at the personnel on the pitch and say it's not going to happen. Full stop. That they just don't have the players to go on a run like that. If somebody wants to make that argument, I'm not going to argue against it. But there remains a kind of lingering feeling just of past evidence that we've seen that Celtic at this time of the year have got an ability to come strong. They've been over the course before, and if they can, I personally think if they can get Oxlade-Chamberlain to fitness to operate in tandem with Callum McGregor, it might solve the midfield problem, which is the problem which is causing everything across the pitch, because they're not creating enough for the front players. Callum McGregor's getting swamped in the back four, or getting put into problems, as you saw yesterday with Trusty and Scales in the first half, and Callum McGregor was left isolated, and all of a sudden they were getting at the back four. I think if the midfield fixes itself, I think Celtic could be a lot better, and I think a lot will depend on Oxlade-Chamberlain. If him and McGregor start to dovetail and really play, that might solve the issue of the other one. All of a sudden, the Benjamin Nygren mystery might get summed up.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you, Swanee. What do you do with Benjamin Nygren?
He doesn't have to do anything. Keith, what I make of him is exactly what I said on here 3 weeks ago. He's the biggest mystery in Scottish football. When he plays in the centre of the midfield, but he generally doesn't contribute anything in terms of killer passes, in terms of holding the ball, carrying the ball, holding it in, helping Callum McGregor. Yeah, if Celtic need a goal, there's one man in that team you would look, and I think it was said recently, it's not just the fourth goal in a 5-0 win over the team at the bottom of the league.
Big goals.
Every goal's massive.
Big moments, yeah.
You know, and even just it was so scrappy, the equaliser at Rugby Park yesterday, but he's there. He's the one that's there to stick it in the net. And maybe I think this open play stuff is maybe getting more exaggerated because too many times there's been two players like that. It's been him and Engels, or him and Hatate, or him and Bernardo, and it's not helped Callum McGregor. Whereas I think if McGregor can get that help, it might just release Nygren to just go and play. And then when he does those things, highlighting the other stuff that he's not doing, you're just seeing the good things that he is doing. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think Callum McGregor's getting swamped in there.
Aye, and getting overrun.
When you assess what the options are, it really has to be Oxlade-Chamberlain, doesn't it? He's the one, and if they can keep him fit, that could be a potential game changer in the running for Celtic. I totally agree with that.
Well, look, we've said this time and time again, but it's just dawning on me just now when I'm reading some of the comments that it is actually embarrassing how much the Celtic board have kind of left Martin O'Neill out to dry. I mean, we were saying it earlier, Swansea.
Swansea?
The Swansea. Swanee, sorry. Honestly.
Antibiotics.
Yeah. Safe trip home.
Sorry. No, what I was going to say is that you look at the team yesterday, Mavuka can't even get on the bench. Benjamin Arthur can't even get on the bench. Had the Dean Murray. Amadou started, hauled off at half-time. I mean, Martin O'Neill clearly must look at them and think, well, not only are they not up to it, it kind of feels like, what was the point in bringing them in?
Certainly feels that way at the moment. Very early to judge them in terms of the time that they've had on the pitch, but I think the key issue, say for instance for Mvuka, is it's very difficult to judge him after 45 minutes against Dundee. The point is, there's been a week in the training pitch, and all of a sudden he's got it all.
Can't even go on the bench.
That you should be showing something in training, surely, that you don't go from starting to not being involved at all.
Aye.
That's not good. Chvanchara looked better than Adamu yesterday. I don't think there's any arguments with that. Benjamin Arthur, I think we all know, was brought in as cover. Next, Stephen Welsh was going back to Motherwell, and Arthur was brought in as cover. I don't think Arthur was brought in to step in ahead of Scales and Trusty. However, more performances like yesterday, and
you never know.
Maybe they should have been going to get a centre half who was capable of stepping in and taking one of the places. Listen. We've gone on all year about Celtic's recruitment. Answers in a postcard. Honestly, how that squad looks right now compared to 18 months ago is eye-watering. And I know guys aren't there. Johnson, Carter, Vickers, Jota, I get that. But they should not be in the state they're in at the moment.
No, Stormzy's right. Do you know what? I'm actually reluctant to say anything in case Rod Stewart comes on again, because he was leading the happy clapping, wasn't he? Recently, with having a pop at me for continually going on about exactly as Swanee just said, the fact that Martin O'Neill was badly let down, and it's incredible to think about. You could understand it if there was a financial issue, if Celtic weren't actually caked in the manner that they are, with millions sitting there. I'll keep coming back to it, and I'll keep saying it because I believe it to be true. Celtic board had an obligation to Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill is doing everything humanly possible for a 73-year-old man to try and keep this season alive, to try and protect the board. He's acting like a human shield, and they didn't look after him. They didn't give him the respect he deserves, and they didn't equip him properly for what's ahead. That's not to say that Martin O'Neill can't work his magic, because he's doing it. And Swanee's talking there about Celtic's run of form. I think what you can't do is conflate form and results, because the results under Martin O'Neill have been absolutely staggering. But the performance level, that's, I think, Swanee's point, has not
absolutely
been there.
Average.
Yeah. If as good as that, Swanee, at times, pretty poor. But they're finding ways. And I think, look, a lot of that is obviously down to the players. They're the ones that need to dig it out in the last seconds of matches and drag themselves over the line. But I think a lot of it goes down to Martin O'Neill. And there are some players in that one there in particular, he just looks as if he checked out. He just looks as if he'd rather be somewhere else, anywhere else right now. And there might be one or two in the same camp in that Celtic dressing room, and that just makes what Martin O'Neill is doing even more remarkable. It makes the job harder for him, no doubt. But there's no excuse for it. No matter what Rod Stewart says, there's no excuse for the way Celtic have mishandled that window and failed to back a manager who's doing his dinger in to try and save this season and keep the title at Celtic Park.
The other thing is, Keith, it's not just even the guys who have been brought in, it's the guys who have not been allowed to leave. Celtic sell their business model on a premise. You come in, you play for us, we take you to the platform of the Champions League, you perform there, you win medals, and when your opportunity comes, you get to go.
Yeah.
Ask Eisenmeyer and Arne Engels if they get to go. We don't know what's happened to Reo Hatate, if he got a chance or not. Kyogo didn't get a chance to go when he wanted to go. There's too many players there that have been there for too long.
Aye.
It actually reminds me, Swanee, if you recall the season Celtic were going for 10 in a row, and they made decisions in that summer.
Aye, Christopher Ryan, aye.
There were players that Celtic deemed were too important. They were going for this 10. They could not stick to their promise and let them go when they thought they were due to move on, and that created a sort of toxic atmosphere. Inside the dressing room, because players are unhappy. They felt, some of these guys. Let's get it right. They're mercenaries at the end of the day, a lot of them, and they didn't care. It didn't matter to them if Celtic get 10 in a row.
Yeah.
What mattered to them was the next step in their own career. Yeah. Professional football players can be selfish that way. Now, there's guys that obviously, your Callum McGregors, your James Forrest, who live and breathe Celtic, and 10 meant everything to them. But some guy for France that's pitched up here thinks, I've done my time. I've got the English Premier League calling here. And I think that festered inside that dressing room that season. And I think you might be seeing something similar this season.
But you're also
and the only guy that's able to sort it out is Martin O'Neill.
Yeah,
just by keeping them winning.
Also damaging themselves, Keith, in terms of the finances as well. How much is Celtic going to get for Eisenmeyer this summer compared to what we're going to get last summer?
Very true.
So they hadn't properly identified a replacement and couldn't let him go.
And in the comments as well, Jimmy says Hatate's playing that bad, no one will want him. And Foxy Lad says Hatate's now a £5 million player at most. Anyone watching recently, I don't even think you get £5 million, to be honest.